Hello, we're here with Shaun, manager of the Manhattan Applesauce and the frequent fourth board. Congratulations, Shaun, on making the playoffs. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for your the kind words.
Well, you've played well this year, and the team is sitting pretty in the number two slot. There wasn't a lot of pressure this week since you guys were a virtual lock for the playoffs. Did you guys feel any pressure to perform?
Well, when the team met up last night before the match and we discussed what our options were, we basically decided that our goal was to eliminate Connecticut. Uh, Connecticut's a team that, if they made the playoffs, could win it all, and they could come back to bite us. So we really wanted to at least draw the match and possibly eliminate Connecticut, and also get the number two seed and possibly the number one seed if Philadelphia were to falter. But it turned out that the number two seed was probably likely if we drew the match also. So I think basically it was just to improve our seeding as best we could and to eliminate a really, really strong team in Connecticut.
Were you a little surprised that Connecticut didn't make the playoffs with such high players?
Very surprised. Beginning of the season, they started off extremely strong, having one of the best players in the country on board one, having what appears to be the highest rated board four, I think, in the league for eligibility with Joshua Colas. It didn't seem like they used everybody as much as I would have thought they would, and it might be again for availability reasons. Very surprised that their late season kind of collapsed, if you will. I spoke to Robert Hess actually in the event in Manhattan recently, and he's not available every week, and that probably is an issue. And there's not a lot of other lineups that work really well for them. And that might be the option. I don't know why they didn't make the playoffs and how they did so poorly at the end, but they were definitely a team that if they had made the playoffs, even at the end here, I think they would have been able to win it all.
Well, the one of the secrets to your team's success was definitely the lower boards. Manhattan led the league this year on fourth board performance. You guys scored 8 out of 10, and by my count, you personally scored 4.5 out of 5, undefeated. What was the secret to your success this year?
It's hard to say. I mean, I've been playing in this league for quite some time, mostly helping out in the assistant manager role and filling in towards the end of the season or if they couldn't get a player. And I've never won a game in the U.S. Chess League until this year. I had played like one game here, 2 games there, 3 games here. I had a couple draws over the years. And actually, historically, we were always critiqued as being the worst team on board 4 in the league for years. People said there's no way this team can win. They always have very weak board 4s. So this year we did some recruiting. We picked up Alex King, who just recently moved to New York. Also picked up Andrew Reba, who's a student at NYU, or rather Columbia, my apologies. And we picked up Andrew Schwartzman. So we had some lower-rated options to use. And they were going to be the people we use most often, actually. It just turned out that because our lineups weren't always available to us, that I kind of had to jump in there in week 2 and for many of the other matches. And somehow I just started winning games. It's hard to describe. I think it's likely because I have put a little more work into my game recently. I really do love chess.com. I do a lot of the tactics trainers on a daily basis, probably about a half hour a day. And before a match, I'll do an hour of tactics in the morning. I think it really helps just to do a lot of tactics before a game. I haven't played the best games of the year. In fact, some of the games have been rather sloppy, but I've kept myself involved in the matches as long as possible. I think playing some different openings than I've played in the past, opening with knight f3 with white rather than trying to beat my opponent in 20 moves with e4, has kind of led me into some positions that I don't normally get into. And so I was just mainly just trying to stick around as long as possible. Dimitri Schneider, our assistant manager of the team, just said, your job is to just hang on as long as you can every match and give us a chance.
Well, you've done better than that. Your only draw was to an international master, so a pretty awesome season. Now, those 3 players you named, Schwartzman, Reba, and King, are all national masters. Not many teams that I can recall use their 10th man. You are the last rostered player. Do you think some teams might overestimate you? Is that part of it?
It could be. I think I go into a match and they're thinking this guy's never won a game before. He got lucky last week, something like that. I think I go into a match. I think people think they can beat me. I think in week 2 is a great example. I mean, not week 2. We played New Jersey, and I played a game can't recall the player I played offhand here. Let me take a quick look. I played. Let's try to think here. Just give me 1 second as I
I believe
pull
in
up.
week 3 you played National Master Ben Goldberg,
Yeah,
but maybe you're
that was
talking.
actually a decent game on my part, I thought. And then in week 5, I came back and we were playing New Jersey, and I played just what I thought was a rather poor game on my part. And my opponent had a clear victory at one point, it would have been a draw. I offered a draw several times. My opponent turned down the draw, and I went on to win a game that I was down a pawn in the end game. Really had no business winning, and I think that comes down to people thinking that I should probably not win any games.
Right, I think if people want to go back and look at the game that was against Praveen Balakrishnan, and your queenside pawns looked like they were just going to be decimated, but you found this nice move, Bishop E7,
Yeah,
which.
it's an interesting little thing that I saw. I was about to resign, and all of a sudden I go, wow, I have this little kind of tactic here that kind of maybe creates a draw and end game for me. And it turned out that my opponent's unwillingness to take a draw led to a victory for us. So that was quite nice.
Well, it seems like the more balanced teams did better in the East than the double GM teams. Do you feel like a more balanced team is the better way to field a roster?
I think so. I think there's not much of a difference in my opinion between 2150s, 2200s, and 2300s if they really do some. If you know your opponent a couple days ahead of time, if you can prepare for your opponent. Like as we saw last night, Eli doing a little preparation went a long way in his game versus Robert Hess. All our players prepare, and I think if you take the time to prepare for the match, you can equalize quite a bit. And putting 2 grandmasters on the top boards definitely makes you weaker on the bottom boards, obviously. I've had the opportunity to play in some lineups where we went strong on the top 3 boards, and it just worked out in our favor.
Well, in your game this week, you weakened your light squares to win a pawn on the queen side. Then you played defense for much of the rest of the game. You ended up winning, of course, but is this your normal style, or was it simply what the position dictated?
This is definitely not my style. Going into the game, I've seen Zachary play quite often at continental chess tournaments, so I kind of knew how he played. I know he gets in time pressure quite often. I know that he will sometimes analyze a position longer than it needs to be sometimes. And so I entered this position. I didn't like the opening that I got necessarily. And so I looked at this idea of taking away the pawn and then realizing that I'm going to be slightly worse for quite a bit of time. Understanding that Zachary gets in time pressure quite often, I use this to my advantage where he's going to try to figure out a way to trap my queen, or he's looking to try to checkmate me. It seemed like those were his 2 goals at one point, rather than just simply trying to improve his position little by little. And he allowed me to get he made a couple moves like queen c8 and a couple of moves in a row towards right after I'd won the pawn that really allowed me to get a little more space for my pieces, open my bishop up, and protect the e4 square a little more so he couldn't, so he couldn't push c4 on me and develop his dark square bishop. I just think once he gave me those opportunities, I was able to probably equalize the game and then just have my extra pawn go the distance. In reality, it's not how I want to play the game, but given the style of play that Zachary's exhibited over time, I thought it would be an interesting way to mix up the game a little bit and try to see if he could prove the point and take the advantage. But after making a couple of third best moves, the pawn is just an extra pawn for white.
Well, do you consider yourself to be master strength after such an awesome season?
This is a lot of my friends tell me. I've been playing chess for a very long time, and I can say I'm stuck at this under 2100 rating. But oftentimes I have really good scores against international masters and masters quite often. I think if I really put the time into the game and played a lot more rated chess, I could easily make master, and it's just about getting the games in. I don't have a lot of time to play chess, and so the U.S. Chess League is kind of like my main outlet to play rated games or unrated games in this sense each week. So I don't have much time outside of the summer, but I do believe right now with the type of training that I've been doing, the tactics training that I've been doing, playing a lot of games with stronger players, I think right now I'm probably playing probably a low master strength right now in certain parts of my game, at least.
Well, does success in the USCL translate into increased confidence over the board, or are they two completely different entities since you know so far in advance who your opponent will be in the USCL?
I think knowing who your opponent is ahead of time translates into increased confidence. Knowing that your opponent might play allows me to prepare something ahead of time that gives me some level of confidence, especially when you've achieved the position that you've prepared. You know, going into a open event and the pairings come out, and 10 minutes later you're at the board. You really have no time to prepare. So they're very different types of chess in a way. It's almost like a player like me who will never get a chance to play in a round robin at the higher level, where you know your opponents ahead of time. I feel like I have this small moments in my chess career to have a time to prepare, and sometimes it's 3 days, and sometimes it's less, but even if you get 10, 15 minutes to prepare for your opponent, it really makes a big difference I think, for lower rated players like myself to get a small edge. It might make up the difference between a 2300 and a 2100.
And do you guys prepare at all as a team, or are you pretty much on your own?
We're pretty much on our own. We don't have a lot of time. We're all very busy. And so outside of emailing each other, sometimes we'll throw an idea at somebody via email. I looked up some games. This guy plays this opening, for example. It's really just we show up and we do all our preparation on our own. If I did have a question, though, over the years, the higher rated players would always be of assistance to me if I did have a question, though.
Well, you had a lot of work last week as captain of the team. After Hurricane Sandy came through and your match got postponed, what did it take to get a team together for Week 9?
It was quite a difficult task, honestly. I mean, New York City was pretty much shut down. No public transportation in the five boroughs means people are pretty much homebound. Our team basically has half the team lives in Queens and the other half lives in Manhattan. So about half our team didn't have power. So we didn't have a lot of options, and we couldn't get to Manhattan at the time. And so we worked really hard with Baltimore to set up the match. We really only could do Wednesday, and they were very, very accommodating, allowing that to happen. And the only thing I could think of was to have the match at my house. I live in Queens, and so does Vladimir Romanenko, Farai Mendija, and Eli Voshel. We all live relatively close by. And so I arranged that I would pick each one of these folks up in my car, and then we'd come back to my house, we'd play the match, and then I would drive them back. It wasn't so simple, but it all worked out, and it was definitely an interesting way to play. Most often I'm playing on a conference table in the office, and instead I'm playing on my couch and my coffee table this week, so it's a little different for sure.
Yeah, that's quite a Herculean effort to put that together. Were you able to get a roster that you were happy with, or was it? It sounds like it was just based on who lived close to you.
Yeah, we had a roster ready to go if things were all normal, and just basically the only roster we had was we had the fact that we had four people that lived close enough to play, and the lineup worked.
I see. Now, were things back to normal for Week 10?
Yeah, things were back to normal. We had our match back at Chess in the Schools, and back in our normal room that we play in, the back conference room at the office, and it's a really great environment that we have because all the players play very close by each other, so we kind of feed off each other in a way. We can see the positions over the board. I don't have to get up and walk around, and I feel like it's a really good way to communicate without talking when you're playing side by side. It kind of allows me to play up a level, just being around these stronger players.
Yeah, that's a really peaceful, serene setting. I've been there before. Do you guys get any chess in the school students that come by to watch the match?
Yeah, we do actually. Like we have an event happening the night of a match. Oftentimes, students will hang around for the first half hour or so before they need to get on the train and head home. Oftentimes, instructors for chess in the schools will hang around and act as arbiters, or just like to hang around and watch the games as well. So that happens quite often.
Now, obviously, since you've played so well, no one's going to second guess your roster choices. But is it hard to call your own number when you're also the captain of the team?
You bet it is. Yeah. Oftentimes, I'm very apologetic when I email the team and I say, "Unfortunately, I'm playing, guys. I'm sorry. I know you guys would do better." And it's worked out that I've been winning games. So people are like, "If you want to keep playing, Shaun, go for it." But I definitely, I feel like there's the other options for board four are stronger players than I am. So I think going into the playoffs, I mean, we have some really, really good options.
Well, do you care to tell us if you're going to play this week?
It's 50-50, honestly. We do have our board 3 options available, so we can pretty much go with any lineup, minus Oleg, who's not available. He didn't play 2 matches. But otherwise, we can pretty much go with like a Romanenko on 1, Eli Voshva on 2. We could put any one of our other title players like Dmitry, Farai, and Lev and me on board 4. Or we can put someone like Andrew Schwartzman and then put Alex King on 4, which is another strong lineup. So it's going to be one of those 2, and it could also be Andrew Reba on 4. We're going to base this, it'll be a last-minute call probably based on who's available. We have some folks that are in school and some people with job obligations, but we're going to put the best lineup that we think is available for that week.
And speaking of obligations, on Monday you are hosting a tournament at Chess in the Schools where you said you'd expected more than 1,000 kids to attend. Is that going to be hard organizing that tournament and possibly playing on the same day?
I don't think so. I think organizing chess tournaments has kind of taught me that I seem to have a lot of extra energy when I run these tournaments. They kind of, when I run a chess tournament afterwards, I'm very pumped up. And I get tired the next day. So I kind of, even yesterday, I worked all day and then played in the match. It's kind of like you have to, when I play chess, I seem to have a little bit of extra energy to pump me up for a game when I'm playing the U.S. Chess League in particular, because the games are just so exciting, knowing that people are watching, knowing that you're playing for a team and possibly to advance in the playoffs. It's not too difficult to work up the energy, I don't think.
Well, I didn't actually expect you to reveal your playoff roster, of course, but what's going to play a bigger factor in your decision? Is it more based on who's hot recently, or is it based more maybe on colors or possible matchups?
I think who's hot recently. I mean, I know for sure I can tell you that I probably can tell you that Eli will probably be playing. He's on fire the last couple of weeks. We're not really one to hide our lineups in that sense. We pretty much will go with one of the 2 lineups that we mentioned. So, and I'm pretty sure that New York is well aware of that. So.
Yes, for those that did not watch the matches yesterday, Eli had a 2,700 Grandmaster beat as black in the first 15 moves or so.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to watch. I mean, he's worked hard all year. He plays almost all of our matches simply because he's one of our stronger players that's always available. He's a PhD student at Columbia, and he has time to play chess in the evenings. And he's just always been available, and he had some tough matchups earlier in the year, but the last 2 weeks he stepped up and really led our team.
So a note to the other captains in the league, make sure you have some students on the roster and not just working professionals, because maybe they have more time to play more matches. How about the students at Chess in the Schools? Were you thinking of putting any of your young phenoms on the roster? I didn't see any this year.
This year we didn't actually. We did over the last couple of years. We had James Black on our team, who was one of our students. And basically because the matches end so late, a lot of these students aren't available as much. So it was more to do with the lineups that we wanted to have. And this year, because I think James' rating went up so high, we were looking for some players that we can use with lower ratings. And that's where Alex King came into play, because we get to use Alex King at 2164, and he's actually over 2300. So we were looking more for that type of player. And we were looking for college-aged and a little bit older players who have a little bit more experience, perhaps, or maybe some previous experience playing in the league, if possible.
I see. Now, in 2008, you guys were second seed in the East and lost in the quarterfinals. What's it going to take to get past the New York Knights this week?
Well, luckily we have the draw odds, which is a huge, huge edge for us. I think we just need to play our game, not make any big mistakes. I think once these lineups are out, we need to prepare. I do like our matchup versus almost anyone on their team. They have very strong possible lineups. I think, again, if they go with the top-heavy, 2 Grandmaster lineup, then they're going to be very weak on board 4. And board 3, again, is a game that will be very important, I think. So I think it'll be a close match. They're, again, one of the toughest teams in the league. We drew them earlier in the year. I think we could easily be in a similar situation where a draw for us would advances in the playoffs.
I'm sure you want to get some revenge. Your lifetime regular season record going into this year was only 1.5 out of 6, and they also knocked you out of the playoffs last year en route to their championship. So I'm sure there'll be no shortage of revenge on the mind. Well, lastly, let me just ask you for a number. People in this league love to talk about winning percentages and odds and this and that. What are your odds of winning the league this year in percentage terms?
And it's a tough situation. I mean, we're going to look at it 1 week at a time. I think if we get past New York this week, if we have to play a team like Philadelphia, they're going to be a very, very tough team for us. So I'd have to say right now, but I think if we get through there, we could be playing a team like Dallas. So probably like about 25%, I would say. It's no guarantees in this league. Every game is tough. Every match is tough. And I want to play it 1 week at a time. But we probably have a pretty good chance being with the draw odds the first week. I think we definitely want to get back at Philadelphia since we felt like that was a match we easily could have won a couple weeks ago.
Well, sounds great. We wish you well in the playoffs, Shaun. I think you're a virtual lock for Board 4, USCL Team 1 Board 4. And you've got a big matchup this week against New York after you get done saying goodbye to those 1,000 kids. I'm sure you'll be ready to play some top-level chess. Before I leave you, though, I'd like to thank our sponsors, PokerStars, the ICC, and Chess.com. Thanks very much, Shaun, and good luck on Monday.
Thank you very much.